good evening. Wherever you are listening from, welcome, and thank you for being here in this quiet moment between the world out there and the one inside your heart. This is Letters from the Silent, a space where the stories we often hide are finally allowed to speak, slowly, gently, with honesty, and without shame. Tonight, I received a letter from someone who looks, on the surface, completely fine. She works hard, keeps up appearances, smiles in all the right places. But underneath, there's a story. One that never made it into the conversation. One that was swallowed down with every "I'm fine," every "I've got it under control." She writes, not for pity, not for attention, but for one simple reason, so that if someone out there is hurting quietly, like she once did, they'll know they're not alone. So tonight, just sit back, let it be quiet, and listen as I read you her words. I was addicted to prescription pills, and no one knew. Some addictions don't smell like alcohol. They don't show up in bruises. They don't leave scars you can point to. They just settle in, silently, like fog in the back of your mind. It was late afternoon, the kind of grey, overcast day where time seems to blend into itself. Not quite evening, not quite done. I'd just finished work. The office was slow, quiet as always. I remember feeling proud of myself that day. I'd crossed everything off my list, answered emails, smiled at the receptionist, even managed small talk in the elevator. My next stop was the grocery store. I wasn't rushing, but I wasn't fully present either. I had a podcast playing in one earbud, my phone buzzing every few minutes. My mind was already at home, thinking about dinner, the laundry I hadn't folded, that text I forgot to respond to. I grabbed the usual things: yogurt, some salad stuff, a frozen pizza because I was too tired to cook. The parking lot was wet. It had rained earlier. That light, annoying kind of rain that doesn't make a statement, just lingers. I was carrying 2 paper bags, balanced on one hip, car keys dangling from my fingers, and then I slipped. It wasn't dramatic, no loud thud, no one gasped. It was quiet. My foot hit the edge of the curb just wrong. The wet concrete met my heel, and I went sideways, bags tumbling, milk carton bursting open on impact. I landed hard, flat on my back, my right shoulder taking the brunt of it. The sound it made, that dull, muted slap of body against pavement, stayed with me longer than it should have. There was a moment, maybe 3 seconds long, where I didn't move. Not because I was unconscious, but because I was stunned. I stared up at the cloudy sky, listening to my heart pounding in my ears, trying to figure out what just happened, trying to process the strange mix of pain and embarrassment crawling up my spine. Someone asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. That's what we always say, isn't it? I picked up the groceries, even the milk carton now split open and leaking across the pavement. I laughed it off, waved them away, got into my car like nothing happened. But something had happened. It wasn't just a fall. It was the beginning of a slow unraveling, one that I wouldn't notice until much later. That night, when the adrenaline wore off, the pain kicked in hard. My lower back screamed with every step. I couldn't lift my right arm past my waist. Even breathing felt tight. I thought I could tough it out. I've always been good at that. Pushing through, smiling when it hurt. But this time, it didn't go away.
The next morning, I woke up stiff, like someone had tied a rope around my lower spine and pulled it tight overnight. I couldn't sit up without wincing. My shoulder throbbed in dull, rhythmic pulses, like it had its own heartbeat. I called in sick, which I almost never do, typed up an email that sounded cheerful, professional, apologetic. Then I drove to urgent care. I remember the waiting room was half empty, muted news on the TV, the smell of disinfectant and cheap carpet. A woman across from me was coughing into her elbow. I looked down at my phone, pretending not to wince when I shifted in the plastic chair. When they called my name, I stood up too fast and almost blacked out. The doctor was kind, young, tired-looking. He examined my back, asked me to lift my arm, press here, bend there. He nodded thoughtfully, jotted notes in his tablet, and said it wasn't broken, but I had strained something in my shoulder, bruised some muscles, and probably pinched a nerve. Then he said, "I'll give you something for the pain, just for a few days, nothing too strong." I didn't argue, didn't ask questions, didn't think much of it. He handed me a prescription like it was a cup of water, and I took it, like someone being handed permission to feel better. At the pharmacy, they called my name, bagged the bottle, and stapled a warning label to the outside. May cause drowsiness. Do not operate heavy machinery. Take with food. I nodded, smiled, paid with my card. Didn't read the fine print. Didn't ask what the pill was called. Because when you're in pain and someone offers relief, you say yes. That night, I took the first pill with half a glass of water, turned off the lights, lay down, waiting for it to kick in. And when it did, it wasn't dramatic. It didn't knock me out, it didn't make me dizzy. It just softened everything. The sharp edges in my back dulled, the ache in my shoulder settled. But it wasn't just the physical pain, that's what surprised me. What it really quieted was my mind. The noise, the overthinking, the spiraling. Gone. Just quiet. It started small, like most dangerous things do. I kept taking the pills, as directed. 1 every 6 hours, if needed. I was careful, measured, disciplined. At least at first. But then came the night I couldn't sleep. Not because of pain, but because I couldn't quiet my head. Deadlines, unpaid bills, my sister's text I hadn't answered, the sound of the refrigerator humming too loud, the loneliness sitting at the foot of my bed. So I got up, went to the kitchen, took 1 pill, just 1, for sleep, for peace. The next morning, I told myself it was fine. It was fine. I had slept. No grogginess, no side effects, just quiet. And so, I did it again. Not every night, just the hard ones, just the nights when the silence got too loud. I didn't notice the shift because I was still in control, still functional, still smiling at co-workers, still making jokes at the dinner table. Still me. But something subtle had started to change. The pill wasn't just managing pain anymore. It was managing discomfort, stress, restlessness, memory. It became a reward for a hard day, a treat for surviving the week, a shortcut through sadness. And I didn't see it as dependency because I wasn't taking too many. I wasn't losing things. I wasn't forgetting appointments. So I convinced myself, I'm fine, I'm responsible, I'm just tired. But deep down, something in me had already let go of the steering wheel.
No one noticed.
That's the part that still hurts sometimes. Not because I wanted to be saved, but because I'd gotten so good at pretending that even I believed the act. I kept all my routines. Woke up at 7:15, showered, made coffee, half cream, no sugar, fed the cat, scrolled my phone, answered emails with my usual cheery tone, used emojis, added haha to the end of sentences that didn't deserve it. I even volunteered to help a friend move apartments, lifting boxes I had no business lifting, my back screaming the whole time. But I smiled through it, joked through it. Because that's what strong people do, right? I kept the bottle on my nightstand, always in the same spot, next to the lamp, behind the framed photo of my parents, hidden, but only just. Sometimes I take a pill before dinner, not because of pain, but because I felt frayed, unraveled in places no one could see. It helped me laugh at the table, helped me stay engaged in conversations, helped me not cry during commercials. People called me put together, reliable, resilient. I wore those words like armor, because if I looked okay, no one would dig deeper. No one would ask the question I couldn't answer. Are you really all right? And the thing is, I didn't lie. I just let people believe what they wanted. Because the mask I wore, it wasn't made of lies. It was made of silence and practiced smiles and a bottle I kept refilling before it ever had a chance to run out.
There's a moment in every quiet addiction where you stop asking, do I really need this? And start asking, do I have enough for tomorrow? I didn't see it happening. I didn't plan to rely on it, but little by little, the bottle became my comfort object. There was a rhythm to it, a kind of private ritual. Get home, kick off the shoes, pour a glass of water, take a pill, exhale. It wasn't about pain anymore, not the kind you could scan or measure. It was about softening, taking the edge off of life itself. I started looking forward to it, like people look forward to wine, or Friday nights, or a hug at the end of a long day, except mine came from a bottle with a child-proof cap and a warning label. Still, I told myself it wasn't a problem, because I wasn't lying to doctors, I wasn't taking more than allowed, I wasn't slurring my speech, I was just navigating life with a little help. But in the back of my mind, I started counting how many pills I had left, and that's when I knew something had changed. It was a Tuesday, late fall, leaves everywhere. I remember standing at the pharmacy counter, waiting for a refill I had called in. The tech behind the register looked at the screen, then looked back at me and said, "You're a few days early." I laughed, said I must have miscounted, told her it was just easier to come today because my schedule was hectic. She nodded. No big deal. Handed me the bag, rang me up, and that was it. Just a tiny lie. Nothing harmful, nothing serious. But it stayed with me. The way I smiled, charming and casual. The way I planned that lie ahead of time just in case she asked. That's when I started keeping notes, in my phone, in my planner, tracking when I picked up pills, marking how long they lasted. It wasn't control. It was calculation, management, strategy. And I still didn't call it addiction, because I was still functioning, still showing up, still fine. The problem with thresholds is you often cross them without knowing it. First, I started taking them an hour early. Then I started skipping days, not to taper down, but so I could save more for the harder nights. Then I asked for a stronger dose,
said the pain was flaring again, said I was struggling to sleep, said the old prescription didn't help as much anymore. They nodded, adjusted the dose, added a new label, same orange bottle, just more powerful. I told myself, still not addiction, still under medical care, still legal, but deep down, something in me was whispering, and I wasn't ready to listen yet. You know what's strange? When I look back, there were signs. So many signs. The missed birthdays, the friends I stopped texting back, the calls I ignored because my words felt heavy, or because I didn't want to explain the tiredness in my voice. I stopped reading, stopped cooking, stopped singing in the shower, stopped caring about things I used to love. But I blamed stress, work, weather, hormones, anything but the truth. Because if I admitted it out loud, if I said it wasn't just pain, wasn't just healing, wasn't just temporary, then I'd have to do something about it. And I wasn't ready. Not yet. It didn't come as a breakdown. There was no dramatic collapse, no sobbing on the bathroom floor, no ambulance, no public scene. It came as forgetfulness, as running out of pills before I thought I would, as missing a meeting because I couldn't remember if I'd taken the day off. It came in the form of conversations that I didn't remember having, sentences I couldn't finish, thoughts I couldn't hold on to long enough to write down. I laughed it off, blamed it on stress, made jokes about getting older, but deep down I knew I had created a kind of fog around myself, soft, comfortable, but blinding. I could no longer see where I started and where the pills began. That scared me. One of the worst parts was how alone it all felt. Because from the outside, nothing looked wrong. I didn't lose my job, didn't get evicted, didn't spiral in a way that people notice. But I stopped being real with anyone, stopped letting people in. I smiled through phone calls, laughed in the right places, said, "I'm good," before anyone even asked. And when people said, "You're always so strong," I said, "Thank you," even though inside I was crumbling. I didn't want pity. I wanted understanding. But how do you explain that your greatest pain comes from something you chose? Something that technically was legal. Addiction isn't always needles and alleys. Sometimes it's a woman in clean clothes, carrying a tote bag, paying her bills on time, smiling just enough. There was no single moment where I knew I had to stop. No flashing sign, no intervention, no terrifying consequence. Just an accumulation of little losses. The way my laughter didn't feel real anymore, the way I had to check the mirror twice to recognize my own eyes, the way I couldn't sit in silence without reaching for something. I had built a life that looked fine, but I wasn't living in it. I was floating through it, muted, detached. And one night, I sat on the edge of my bed with a pill in my hand, and I realized I couldn't remember the last day I went without one. That broke something in me. Quietly, but completely. I didn't quit that night. Let me be honest. I wish I had. It would have made for a cleaner story. But I took the pill, and I cried while it dissolved in me. But something shifted. For the first time, I didn't want the escape. I wanted the strength to stay. The next day, I told my doctor the truth. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to scare me. Enough to start something. He didn't judge me, didn't shame me. He looked at me like I was human and said, "We can work on this." That sentence stayed with me. It still does. I wasn't fixed in a day. Recovery isn't linear. But for the first time, I stopped running. And I started choosing myself, even if I didn't fully know who that was anymore. No one tells you how loud the world becomes when the pills are gone. Everything hurts, not just the body, but the brightness of mornings, the weight of small talk, the empty space between meals. Sleep becomes a fight. Thoughts don't land softly, they crash, spiral, repeat. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, how did I ever function without it? My body shook, my jaw clenched, my skin itched, my brain raced. But the worst part wasn't the physical, it was looking in the mirror and seeing someone I didn't trust. Someone who made this mess. Someone who couldn't be left alone with her own thoughts. Shame is quiet. It doesn't yell, it whispers. It says things like, "You did this to yourself. You had everything. Why wasn't it enough? You don't deserve help." I stopped answering texts again, stopped going out. Not because I was high, but because I was ashamed of who I'd been and unsure of who I was now. People told me I was brave, but I didn't feel brave. I felt broken, exposed, like I'd taken off my armor and had no idea how to walk without it. I kept thinking, what if this is all I'll ever be? A woman trying not to slip back into the dark. Recovery is lonely, even with support, because no one else lives inside your skin with your regrets. But some mornings the sun hit different. Not brighter, but softer. I started noticing things again. The way my cat purred against my leg. The sound of the kettle before it whistled. The moment in a movie where I actually laughed, genuinely, not because I was supposed to. I celebrated small things. Making the bed, taking a shower before noon, returning a friend's call, eating a meal I cooked myself. They felt like victories, because they were. I wasn't chasing perfection. I was chasing presence, and sometimes that was enough. But it wasn't linear. People say healing is a path, but sometimes it's a loop, a spiral, a long hallway with doors you thought you'd already closed. I remember walking past a pharmacy one day, just running errands and feeling it. That old ache, that voice. Just one. No one would know. You're tired. You've earned it. The scariest part was how comforting that voice still felt. Like an old friend. Like a warm jacket you know you shouldn't wear, but miss anyway. I stood there for a long time, just staring. And then I walked away. Shaking, but still walking. That was a win, too. I don't remember what made me say it out loud. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way my hands kept shaking, even when I was technically better. But one afternoon, I sat across from a friend, someone I hadn't opened up to in years, and I said the words, "I got addicted to painkillers, prescription stuff. No one knew. I'm trying to fix it." She didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't pull away. She reached for her cup of coffee and just nodded, said, "Thank you for trusting me." And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't broken. I was wounded. And wounds can heal, if you stop hiding them.
Recovery gave me clarity, and clarity has a cost.
Because once the fog lifted, I saw all the things I missed. Birthdays I forgot, friendships I let fade, opportunities I turned down because I was too numbed out to care. I saw the ways I lied, to others, to myself. I saw the version of me that could have existed if I'd asked for help sooner. But I didn't dwell in guilt. I couldn't, because guilt pulls you backward, and I was just learning how to move forward. So I made peace with the loss, not because I deserved it, but because I needed to.
This letter, the one you're hearing now, it sat inside me for a long time. I wrote it in pieces, on napkins, in phone notes, in my head while driving or washing dishes or crying in parking lots. It wasn't written to blame anyone, not my doctor, not my family, not even myself. It was written because I needed to stop pretending that I made it out clean. I didn't. I made it out with scars, with lessons, with grief, with a gentler version of myself I'm still getting to know. It's strange how the darkest parts of us can sometimes lead us to light. Not all at once, not in some dramatic movie ending kind of way, but slowly, like dawn, one faint line at a time. These days I still struggle, still have nights where I pace the kitchen, chewing my nails, fighting old urges that don't really die, they just grow quieter. But I'm okay now. Not perfect, not fixed, just awake. And if you're listening to this from the middle of your own fog, I want you to know, you are not weak. You are not too far gone. You are not alone. There's light, even here, especially here. I don't mark my recovery in years or days or even milestones. I mark it in quiet. The quiet of waking up without panic. The quiet of walking past a pharmacy and feeling nothing. The quiet of answering "How are you?" with something honest and letting it be enough. I don't chase euphoria anymore. I chase stillness, the kind that doesn't come in bottles or scripts or labels, the kind that lives in deep breaths, real conversations, and choosing again and again to stay present. I'm not here to tell you I won, I'm here to tell you I'm still here. That's the win. Thank you for listening. Really listening. Not just to the words, but to the silence between them. This has been Letters from the Silent, a story told softly, honestly, and without shame. If you're carrying something heavy tonight, please remember, you don't have to do it alone. There is no shame in struggling, no shame in asking for help, no shame in surviving your own life. Until next time, this is Adam, wishing you peace, in whatever form it takes. Good night.